How's Cape Town today?
Cold as everywhere, I think.
Cold as hell.
Really?
Cold as no. Not as bad as Joburg though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we only have snow on the mountains. I see in Joburg they're getting snow on the ground.
Yeah. Guys, just bear with me. I've got a bit of a challenge here. Something keeps popping up here. We're trying to
Morning,
sort this
everyone.
out. Guys, listen, I have to restart here quickly. Just stay on the line. I'll be back as soon as I can, okay?
Morning, Brian.
Great. How you doing?
Good, and you?
Okay, thank you. Does Dirk have load shedding?
I don't know if he's got load shedding. He's got some tech issues, so he logged out and he's trying to log in again.
Okay, cool. Alex is gonna have to run this meeting today. Tim, how's it going?
Hey, good morning. How's it going, Brian?
Cool. How's my awesome super duper website coming along?
Yeah, coming along, getting there. How's
Cool.
Marguerite? Hi, Cindy. Hi, Dick. And to all the other two-letter names along the bottom of my screen.
Morning. Oh, there he is.
Hi, Simon.
Hi, Tim. How's it?
Yeah, nice, man. Good to see you. How's the
Yeah,
family?
you too. Yeah, all good. All good. Finally stopped growing. Not themselves, just the family and the numbers.
Okay, in quantity. Excellent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say they never stop growing.
Yeah, no. They're definitely individually growing very quickly. too quickly. Yeah. And yourself, Tim?
So hang on, Simon, you said the family stopped growing.
Yeah, in numbers, they do.
Yeah, but so are you alluding to a certain procedure or?
Yeah, that's old news now. It's done.
Did you have the purse strings snipped?
Yeah, I had to do it. Otherwise, it was getting out of control. Three is plenty.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now our two are doing well. They're 13 and a half. So
Jeez.
yeah, they're almost taller than my wife now. So
Unreal, man.
next stage for us. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Guys, sorry, I just had to restart here this morning. Hasn't sorted out the problem, but
What problem were you having?
little window keeps popping saying up that the last USB thing connected doesn't get recognized.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll have to get a hold of my IT guys, but I know to close the window. That's it. So that's what I'll be doing for the next hour and a half.
Shame. Man.
No.
USB device not recognized. Malfunctioned. I'm here.
We can see you, which is good.
Yeah, that's all. I know Russell said he's being a few minutes late, and obviously let's just bear with this. Okay. All right, is the recording still happening? Okay, cool. Okay, guys, nice attendance again. Is there anyone here for the first time? Anyone new? I know we added a few people over the last month, but I'm not sure if anyone's on the call.
Hi, Dirk. I'm here. Diana, Margaret.
Hi, Diana. Do you want to welcome? Do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm based in Victoria. I've only been in the industry for a year, so I'm really keen on getting all of your guys' experience and knowledge. This is really an honor for me. Thank you for having me.
Okay, great. Excellent. Okay, guys, before we start today, there's a few things I thought I'd just share. As you guys know, I listen to a lot of podcasts because I drive between PE and St. Francis a few times a week. Yesterday, I listened to you guys all know Brendan Fraser, The Human Side of Money. And the problem is a lot of those podcasts are quite long. They're gone for like an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes. So, but I'm telling you, wherever you can listen to this stuff, you should listen. But the one I listened to yesterday was episode 83. And what he does every now and then, he summarizes a whole lot of past podcasts, which is really helpful. And in this one, he discusses, let me tell you the title. Yeah, he discusses 3 proven techniques to enhance your questions and elevate your conversations. Now, the stuff that he discusses, and this is a shorter one. It's not that long. It's under an hour. But the points he discusses there it's really stuff that you guys can implement. So it's a simple questioning, but how you can actually just get the conversation to another level. And because we've got a lot of young planners here, so a lot of planners who are battling to find clients. And when you find clients, to actually convert them into paying clients and however you charge, it's really pretty cool. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and some of the stuff he shared was really good. So I'd go listen to that. It's episode 83. If you're not sure, I'll stick it on. I'll try and stick it on here later. Okay, then you guys know I'm all a big fan of the Trap podcast, the 4 UK advisors. Also, and then the last one, episode 23, it's called the Sin Bin or whatever. They talk about red and yellow cards. It's really cool because they're talking about, and they don't agree on everything, which is great. So they discuss how they either boot clients or don't take them on in the first place. And again, a lot of young planners here, we know this is difficult to do, but I mean, you've got years of experience there from those guys. So there's a lot of, you know, you can cut through there, as they call it, the meat and potatoes, but there's a lot of banter in between. But it's that's a really good podcast. And then
Sorry, Dirk, could you just mention that name again?
it's Trap. So it's called the Real Advisor Podcast. I'll share it on the WhatsApp group as well.
Thank you.
It's, yeah, Andy Hartz, Nick Lincoln, Alan Smith, and Carl Widger. It's a lot of fun, that podcast. But that was good. And then I was doing a bit of research for, I write an article every Monday morning, a short article for St. Francis here. And I was thinking about this whole asset management thing again. And I did a bit of research, and I found a really interesting article, which I'll also share, about Tim Edwards. And I mean, it's actually scary, you know, because I think most of us, or most of the new people, start off trying to be very clever around markets and funds and all of that. And 30 years down the line, there are a lot of people that still believe they're very good at picking funds and that kind of thing. And just the research here shows that over the last 30 years in the US, 90% of actively managed funds have underperformed the S&P 500. 90%. Okay, so that means only 10% have either matched or slightly outperformed, you know, the S&P 500. And obviously there are a lot more funds now than there were 30 years ago, but it speaks to this whole narrative again that we add value by trying to be very clever. But yeah, I'm going to leave that there, but I'll share those three on the WhatsApp group later. Okay, so today, I mean, I think coming out of the last session, we said we would speak about ways of adding value to clients, because I think, you know, we've discussed this a lot, because, you know, and this comes back to pricing. How do we get people to pay for our service, however we charge? How do we justify what we earn, either upfront, ongoing? And they really, yeah, so there's no definitive answer on this. So what I did is I first thought, well, let's just see what ChatGPT has to say about this, because, you know, this is now the technology that's replacing all of us. So basically, so the 10, I asked for 10 ways our advisors can show clients how they add value, and the results were surprisingly pretty vanilla. And I think this just speaks to, again, that this technology gets all its information from basically stuff that's published all around the internet, or the interweb, as my mate calls it. And the reality is, so what that shows me is that this is a question that a lot of people really find difficult to answer. So it's talking about goal-based financial planning, investment management, risk management, and insurance, which speaks to, obviously, in our case, life and disability, tax planning, estate planning, behavioral coaching, which is positive, retirement planning, education and empowerment, which is good, regular communication, and then value for fees. So demonstrate how we add value. But the answer there isn't, you know, they highlight the value they provide. It doesn't tell you how they do that. So I think, I mean, this topic is really interesting, because if you look at ChatGPT, which pulls its information from all around the globe, there's nothing there that this group doesn't know. You know, we know about behavioral coaching, you know, in its different forms, and then we know about estate planning and risk planning and all those things. So I think when we just started this, I think the idea was to think about practical ways of how we actually do this, because I think that's really what's important, and what we battle with. So, I mean, I can share how we are trying to do that as a business, but I think this time, instead of us opening our hands first, let's get this around the room. And guys, remember, there's no There's no right or wrong here. Clearly, no one knows what the hell's going on, not even ChatGPT. So there's no right or wrong. There's no silly ideas. And in fact, I think this is an opportunity for us to throw what we think may be stupid or silly ideas out there and then explore those. So I'm going to pick on Tim first, because I know Tim commented that this is close to his heart. And Tim's in an interesting position because he's involved in the industry, I think quite in depthly, but he's also not in the industry. So he's kind of sitting on the outside looking in. So Tim, I haven't prepared you for this, but take it away.
Yeah, no, always good when it's off the cuff, because then there's a deeper level of authenticity, right? So, you know, we've been helping financial advisors try to articulate the value that they bring, and almost without fail, I think Brian on this call is one of the exceptions. Almost without fail, the journey starts with pretty much exactly what you found in ChatGPT. And guys just come and say, well, we do this, and this, but I'm different, but I do it all differently. And we try and say, okay, but how do you do it differently? And so after working, you know, almost 10 years with advisors now, my method of approaching this is to say that the only differentiator is your approach and your philosophy. And so early on, we started to say the financial planner is the brand, not the products, not the services, not the product providers, because we found that that was the quickest way to start helping the advisors we work with differentiate from what am I bringing to my clients that is actually different, and starting to articulate it. Because I think when financial planners sit in front of clients who they've known for a while and they've got a good relationship with, there is that agreed value in the relationship. But when they have to broadcast it, when they have to talk about it, when they have to do an elevator pitch, they're not practiced in saying, these are the things that we bring to add value to you. In our sphere, it's always been around websites, blogs, newsletters, social media, and how that translates to adding value to the client relationship is by keeping in touch. We worked with a couple of, and still do work with a couple of financial transitionists. And one of the value adds of that philosophy that I've found is that it's based more on client milestones, client transitions, rather than ages or expected moments in life. So you know, you're 25, so then a lot of planners we've always dealt with, if they assume if you're 25, you're going to have these 5 issues. And then when you hit 35, you're going to have these 5 issues. When you're 45, and so they try and then segment and have these messages tailored at different groups, which often actually miss the mark. And of late, we've seen so much commentary about saying, guys, you know, older clients are not necessarily not online, and younger clients don't necessarily only want a millennial way of communicating. You've got to start understanding the journey your clients are on and being available to them at those moments. So they might get divorced at 30, they might get divorced at 50, as you guys know. They might get remarried at 55. They might have their first kid at 40. You might have clients who at 25 did have their first kid. So it's about that, thank you, Sam, that availability to clients for them to feel like you're accessible when I need you. When the shit hits the fan, you're available. Because there's also that legacy conversation of a planner engaging with a client, setting something up, and it's that whole set and forget. The clients sign up for 2 or 3 products, they have a new plan, and then they don't hear from their planner for 3 to 5 years. And maybe someone phones and cold calls and gets in with a risk product or insurance product that they have a clever sales pitch and convince the client to sign up for that they don't actually need. And so now typically you've got people who've had 5 to 10 years of engagement with 1, 2, maybe 3 people in the industry. Maybe only one of them was a planner, the other 2 are brokers or salespeople. But in the public person's mind, in the average person on the street, they don't see the differences as you guys see them in the industry. And I've only learned this from helping advisors communicate. And I've realized, wow, there's so much happening. And there's only, in my mind, a small amount of advisors who really add value, which is the lifestyle guys, the guys who are focused on relationship. And so from a value add perspective, we have a huge focus on relational, conversational engagement with clients, because that is where you come to your humor comes in, your empathy comes in. And empathy is another big word that's been coming up of late, is being able to listen to your clients. So from our side, again, from the communication, it's what channels do you have for two-way communication? Because that's also a challenge that we found is a lot of small businesses and financial planners as well just have this bulk send. We're just going to put information out there, put it out there, put it out there, which is why I came up with the 3C concept of how you are effectively communicating. It's not just the content, but it's also connection and it's community. And I know, I think we've even chatted in this group before about niche and how do you find who your ideal clients are, and that it's very challenging in the early days of building a business, because you do kind of just, anyone who's going to, pay me money is going to become a client. But when, and Brian, we did this very recently. I think, Ben, we've had these kinds of conversations. Simon, as I'm seeing you as well, it's who do your clients, who are they? What do they look like? How do they look like you? Who are they in your favorite kind of list? Because those are the guys that you want to try and start to resonate more with. And so having open two-way communication, having a space where guys can easily find you, easily share you, in the client's mind is one of the bigger value adds. You can say, well, you're certified and you're qualified and you're experienced, which all helps on the delivery down the line of an actual product. But when we look at the core product, and in marketing, we speak to core product, actual product, and auxiliary product. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those three layers, but core product is the deeper need. So it was explained to me when I was studying that if someone buys a drill, they don't actually want a drill, they want a hole. And so if you can speak to them about what size hole they want, how many holes they want, where do they want the holes, what are they drilling the holes into, you can then understand what drill you want. And it's the same with anything else we do in life, whether it's me selling my business and what we do, whether it's financial advisors, it's starting to understand what is the core need. And then your value proposition actually focuses around the core need. But with financial planning, it's normally focused around the actual product or the auxiliary. And the auxiliary product in your industry would be, we've got support, we've got admin teams, we've got follow-ups, and guys say, oh, we've got call centers, this, and this, which to a client who's never had to claim, to a client who's early on, there's no perceivable value. But if you've got an existing client who's got a fear of not having enough money one day, a fear of not being able to buy the house or provide for their spouse or their kids, or be able to go to private medical care in the case of an emergency, all those types of things. Those are when we start to look at the core product. And I'll let someone else talk. I just waffled a bit there. I hope that was valuable.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, the more you think about it, the more it doesn't get easier. It gets hard.
Yeah.
You're muted, Dirk.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. I was saying that I think the more you think about it, actually the harder it gets, simply because you're dealing with we're talking about different clients. So you're talking about potential new clients, you're talking about existing clients, and it's different. For new clients, the challenge is they haven't been through your process, and I believe when clients have been through the process, it's something they need to feel. That's what we believe our value is. And then also when they're existing clients, the challenge is to keep finding new ways of reinventing and adding value. Because if you're not doing that, eventually you're not doing your job. We've got to keep on reinventing ourselves. So it really isn't easy. I mean, we've toyed with stuff like a one-page plan. And then, as I said, so we write a lot here, and it was interesting that so St. Francis, there's a lot of people moving here, obviously a lot of folk around retirement age, and the chap who runs this platform that we publish on, he just shared with us that the one article we got the most reads or hits on was an article about how to combat loneliness in retirement, which has got absolutely nothing to do with what we think we do, you know. And it was, I mean, and so, yeah, again, we started saying, okay, well, let's try and put stuff out there which speaks to that kind of place in our target market share, because we understand it. And I think we all know that when we eventually, the clients that we do keep that stick, eventually what happens is long term is they trust you just because they've dealt with you for so long. So it's like, in that way, you know, once you get someone who kind of likes you and starts working with you, it is a little bit like clubbing seals, because they follow you blindly like sheep. I mean, we've had a case this week, and I think that's a warning sign, because we can get very comfortable with those sheep that are following us, drinking our Kool-Aid, and not they're following us, but we're not necessarily adding value. We saw a client this week or recently that has dealt with an advisor for 30 years. They stated unequivocally they're not unhappy with the advisor, but just there was something missing. They'd been through stuff in their life, and this guy didn't. Well, the advisor would have known about it, but he didn't. I don't think it was. Well, no, it wasn't addressed in any way. So that was the one thing, is 30-year relationship. They're not unhappy, but there's something missing. And then when we asked them, we spoke about fees, taking them through our process. Do you know how you're getting paid? How your advisor gets paid? I've got no idea. Absolutely no idea. And this is a well-to-do person. This is not someone who's had a menial job. This is a person who's run businesses their whole lives. They got no idea how they get paid. So again, for me, an illustration of this whole story about fees is more in our minds than it is in our client minds, and the focus should be on how do we add value, you know. Brian, I'm going to pick on you, because I know that you work differently to a lot of us, and you have to, because you're charging fees, you kind of have to, and Marguerite, you're next, giving you a heads up, but because you guys charge fees, you've got to kind of illustrate value up front, because I would imagine otherwise it's quite difficult for people to commit to paying you in lump sum or committing to a debit order.
Yeah, that's right. So I think this conversation started from when last time Shannon, who's hiding himself today, he asked a lot of questions about like how do I get people to pay fees or whatever. There you are, Shannon. So I'm going to be quite blunt and direct, but that's the only way I know how to talk. And also what I'll do is, while I was waiting for you to come on the call, Dirk, I remembered why we're having this meeting. So I quickly did like a brain dump just on a Word document of a few bullet points of the first meeting I have with a client. Because at the end of the first meeting, the client knows if they want to work with me or not. And I've had to get good at that by not speaking to financial advisors about how they display value. And I want to tell you why financial advisors are not good with that. They don't need to. Most advisors will say, look, I'm a financial planner. We're going to do this with you. We're going to do that with you. We're going to invest your money. We're going to get you policies. Just work with me. It's fine. We don't have to worry about how you pay me, because it's going to sort itself out in the wash later on. There's going to be a percentage, or there will be some but there's no commitment from anyone. Let's just work, generally speaking, and see what the outcome might be. It's the easiest thing to do. And I think that's why a lot of us feel it's unrewarding, because we don't feel like there's buy-in. There's not buy-in from ourselves, and there's not buy-in from the client. So what I've done is I've turned to people who have jobs where they have to do big projects, or they have to get commitment from people financially and otherwise on an ongoing basis. And I've seen how they control their meetings and how they control their pitches, if you want to call that. There's so much more I can learn from non-financial planners about how to service clients than I can from the general financial planner. And that's where people like Tim come in. He's not a financial planner, so he's not, as Dirk said, sipping the Kool-Aid. So if I can just give you some thoughts quickly. By the end of my initial meeting, it's 45 minutes. I know if I want to work with a client or not, and I know if the client wants to work with me or not. Now, not everyone that I meet with I want to work with. Sometimes it's just not going to be challenging, or it's not going to be lucrative. Other times they might just. So what I do is meeting after I've introduced myself and that, and I just say my name's Brian. I run Freedom Financial Planning, and that's it. And then I'll say the objective of this meeting is just to understand a bit more about each other and to determine if I can add value. I don't know if what I do is you'll perceive as valuable to yourself, and this is an opportunity to find that out. Is that fine? So that's straight out of Paul Armisen, if any of you have done your homework, and then you will know immediately, okay, cool. So I've given the power to the client, and the client can back out at any time. This is all about them. What I then do is, my main mission is to understand the problem, the real problem that the client has. It's not the issue that brought them in. Tim touched on this right at the end just now. He talked about the hole, like they need a hole. Why do they need a hole? What size must it be? There's a real problem why they come in. So people often say, I've got these investments and I need help. I don't know if it's optimal. That's not the problem. That's the outcome of the problem. And so what I do is I ask quite a lot of questions about what's on their mind, what is plaguing them. And then after about 5 or so minutes, it's easy to identify the problem with some practice. And it's just basically the same problem. Everyone's got the same problem. It's either they don't know if they have enough, they're not educated enough about this to understand what they're doing, they don't feel in control. There's normally 3 or 4 different kind of problems, and I just try and understand which bracket they're going to be in. So then what I do is once I feel like I've got a good handle on the problem that the family's having, I'll ask them, what have they tried to resolve this? I want to understand quickly, why are they failing to fix this themselves? And what this does is it shows them why they haven't come right and why they potentially need to work with someone else, which, as we know, everyone should have a financial planner. They just need to understand that I can't tell someone they need a financial planner. They must tell me they need a financial planner. It's to get them to say that. I then ask them what's stopping them from resolving the problem. That's kind of a similar question to the first one, but they might have said, like, I've read some DIY books and I've listened to podcasts. So what's stopping you from solving the problem? Well, I don't know what to do next, or whatever the answer might be. I then ask them a question which I only added last year to my process. I say, how does having this problem, whatever I've defined the problem as, or I've been able to articulate it, how does not being in control of your finances make you feel? And then I ask them, they have to verbalize how they feel about their problem. Then I ask, what value do you believe or hope I can add? So what they're doing is they're going to give me my job description because they're going to tell me what they believe should happen. I will then be able to repeat that back to them later on. Then I say, how do you ultimately want to feel? Now, it's going to be the opposite of out of control. I want to feel in control. I want to know. I want to know. I want to know I have enough. I want to know that we're making good financial decisions. And what I do is, while listening to them, my notes I'm taking is not necessarily about the problem. I'll remember that forever. It's the phrases they're saying. So they might say, I just don't feel like I'm in control. I'm making decisions blind. I don't like making decisions for my family based on my gut. I will use these phrases. I'll write them down while they're talking. And I'm not taking down kind of quantitative data about what they've got or whatever. I'm just taking down their statements. And then what I do is once I believe I've summarized their problem well enough, I sum up their thoughts and I kind of present it back to them. And this, I believe, I hope, shows that I listened and that I kind of get them. So I package what they said and I say it back to them and I say, so you said you don't feel in control of your finances. You're making financial decisions on the fly and you're worried about the impact that will have. You want to be in a position where you feel empowered. You want to be educated sufficiently to know what decisions you're making, and you want to be in control. And then they'll often say, yeah, okay, cool. So that's sometimes it's 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. And then I'll just say, okay, cool. At this point, what questions do you have for me? So at the end of that, they always have one of 2 questions. Normally, immediately it's, so what do I charge? Which is interesting because a lot of people, I mean, I had another meeting yesterday with a prospect. She doesn't know I'm a flat fee person. It's not, but she asked that. The other question they might ask is, so what is working with you like? What is your process? What do you do? Before I changed the way I work in 2020, I never got asked those questions. And the reason I didn't get asked those questions is because I didn't really ask any questions, or at least not good questions. And so what I found was that the only reason they're asking me how much money will they have to part with, or what does working with me look like, is because they're trying to weigh up now if they can afford to, or if they have the time to work with me, which means that I suspect what it means is that they've perceived value. Now, I've not told them even my surname. I've not told them that I'm independent. I've not told them that I'm a CFP. I haven't told them anything like that, but somehow people in these industries, they're able to, when in other industries, not financial advice, they're able to display value without even really saying anything. They're just asking questions. And so through that process, now the person's saying, okay, well, cool. What is your fees? What's your process? It's awesome. So now I'm able to articulate that. And so what I normally do is, and this took me a while to learn, and it took me a lot of books and podcasts and articles to kind of click. But when I answer that question, I answer all of these questions with the same answer, and that is to explain my financial planning process. How, once again, it's very much Paul Armson. So talk about life planning, we move into financial planning, move into financial advice, a little blurb about each. And what I do is I end off that explanation using their sentences back at them. I only do this I only get to the stage if I know that I believe I can add value to this person and I can help solve their problems. As financial planners, we know so much. And if they give us information, we can help solve a lot of their problems. We just need to have commitment from them and to get the information. So what I do is I sum this up, and at the end I say, and then at the end of this process, you should be in a better position where you feel in control of your finances. You will have more confidence in your decisions because you will not be making them based on gut feel. You'll be getting real-time feedback from the visual feedback from the financial planning software we utilize. We will empower you to know what your financial situation is, warts and all. And so what I'm doing is their solutions that they're looking for, I weave into my kind of monologue about what I do. And it's very easy to do that because at the end of the day, like I said, most clients have the same problems. It's a variety of three to four different problems. And then you kind of get used to bringing that back to the person. You can only do that out of sincerity, though. You can't lie. And you can't say to a person, yeah, I have the ability to solve these problems or whatever. If the person's problem is they want to beat the S&P 500, it's not a problem I can solve. 90% of fund managers can't, apparently, according to Dirk. So the thing is that all I can say is then to that I can refer them on or something. But it's basically, it has to be from a place of sincerity. And I only get to that stage with people that I believe I can and I want to work with, and who have asked me the right questions. If someone says, do you have a contract with Momentum or something? And then I'll say, why is that interesting to you? Why is that a concern to you? And then they might give me some feedback. And then I can decide from them, this is a product person. It's not going to work. And I'll say, look, yeah, thanks for the meeting. Let me think about this, and I'll get back to you. So now I'm thinking about this, but I just don't want to work with people who want to keep asking about products. So that's kind of in a nutshell. 3 years of my work so far distilled into about 8 minutes. But that's kind of how I get people to commit already upfront to a payment. And then what I do is I manage their expectations, and I say, I need a little bit of information from you. I need to see under the bonnet to quote you on a price. I need to know what I don't know. The complexity or the size of your estate. It's you and your husband or you and your wife. And then I send them a short questionnaire. And in that questionnaire, they just populate kind of their current estate. I just want to know if this is actually a tangled piece of string that's very long, or if it's a short, simple estate. I've got 2 real price points, and I need to know which one of the 2 of them are going to be in. And so then I manage the expectations, and I say, if you potentially this one, your pricing will be between this and that. And if you're in that one, the pricing will be between this and that. but I need a little bit more information before I can accurately quote you. And then they always give me that information, like kind of big round numbers. And then afterwards, I just tell them what I'm charging, and then we take it from there. So I've never used visual aids before. I've never had the ability to, because my previous company, we didn't sing from the same hymn sheet, so I couldn't speak out of turn. My current company, I see Tim has left. He's busy making my website. And then from that, I'm using those visuals and infographics to create some sort of a presentation so that when I talk through my planning process, I rather give them visuals instead of hearing my droning voice. I don't know if that will add value. I've never had the luxury of using it. I think I'll be quite nervous to use visuals, but hopefully it makes it easier for me to try and bring across the value we can add in a more visual way so they don't have to just look at me. So yeah, sorry I went on.
No, that's great, Brian. I think we can all learn from that. Thank you so much, man. Yeah. So Marguerite, and guys, just to try and bring it back a bit. I mean, Brian, it was great. I think what we're also trying to look at is like practical ways that we have tried to. So I think what Brian walked through was how he tells clients how he can add value, and again, it comes out through questioning. So really, I promise you, listen to that Brendan Fraser thing I'm going to share. It's really good in the questioning because it kind of leads down the same path that I think Brian's gone. Just very, very smart questioning where you get the person talking. As long as they're talking about themselves, then you've got a fan. Marguerite, if you could just share with us. I know I'm not sure exactly how you guys work, but I know that you've run educational programs and then brought that into active financial planning.
Thanks, Dirk. Well, I think we can all learn from Brian about how to run that first initial meeting. That was very, very insightful. Thank you, Brian. What we do is and I think Brian alluded to it, he said he runs it on 3 bases: life planning, financial planning, and then the advice process. Our process is also an integrated life coaching process with financial, we call it coach consulting. So the first part of our process focuses more on the client's life, what's important to you, what is your why, what are your values, and then we help them connect that with intentional ways of using their money that reflect who they are really as a person and what's really important to them. So it is also very much an interwoven process of life coaching, financial planning, and for us the advice also comes towards the end, because we don't believe that we can give advice within the context of a void of not really knowing our clients really well. So all of this does take time. We normally run about 6 sessions before we get to a stage where we would actually give advice. Although if a client has a specific advice need at the beginning of our process, we will bring that forward. So it really depends on what the client needs and whether they want to go through the life coaching part first before we get to advice, or whether they want a more integrated parallel process. But in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Okay, thanks, Marguerite. And do you have any specific ways? So when you've got a client that you had for a while, have you got any particular ways in which you demonstrate the value that you add? Because a lot of what you do is around the emotional side, the life side, so the coaching side. So the answer doesn't have to be yes. I'm just asking if you have anything that you've specifically used. I know you guys are fairly new at this, so but down the line, have you found a way of demonstrating to your clients a way that you've added value?
We do try to, as Brian also said earlier, how would you like to feel at the end of this process, or how would you like to feel during this process? And that thing of feeling more empowered, feeling more in control of your finances is something that's very big with a lot of clients. A lot of people feel completely out of their depth, and they feel a lot of shame around it because they have this assumption, because there's so much information available, that we are all supposed to know exactly how this works. And the reality is we don't. We're not taught in school. Our parents might not have been good role models. There's so many things that influence our ability to work well with money. So a lot of it focuses on, do you feel more empowered now than last year? Or, I mean, clients will actually give us that feedback on their own, and we would note it and reflect that back to them. And then we also try to keep notes of where there's been quantitative improvements in a client situation. So, for instance, we worked with a client that that's actually a beautiful case study. When she came to us, she was so scared of looking at her money that it reduced her to tears, and she was actually literally shaking. Her hands were clammy. She really, it was like full-on anxiety. And at the time that she started working with us, she and her husband were trialing separation to see whether they want to stay together or whether they wanted a divorce. And 6 months into that process, she was able to, on her own, negotiate a divorce settlement that was 4 times what he offered her. So, so there's been huge emotional growth in her situation and her ability to communicate around money. And some of it's intangible and some of it is tangible in terms of the financial outcome that she got. So yeah, we try to keep notes of that and also remind ourselves and our clients about the value, but we're still learning how to do that.
Yeah, well done. That's amazing. To be able to make a difference like that in someone's life makes what you do really worthwhile. So, I mean, I'm just thinking about, I mean, one thing that we've done, and we kind of just did it, video testimonials, because we thought, well, you know, like people aren't going to phone a reference really, you know, people are a bit uncomfortable. So we've got a few that we've done over the years. And I think thinking about it, that's what I don't know if people watch them. I think some people might, and I hope they do. But again, if I look at the really good ones that we've got, those clients, they never speak about the returns on that, but they speak about the relationship, and they speak about kind of, I think, how we make them feel as a business, like how they feel they cared for and looked after. And I'm again thinking a lot. I think I mean, that can work both ways, because if you want somebody who wants to beat the S&P, he's not going to want to see that. But that's actually cool, because we don't want to deal with that person either. So I think, yeah, I think video testimonials. I mean, I think when you've got a couple of disciples who drink the Kool-Aid and pass it on, some of our best referrals are people who don't actually have a lot of business with us, you know. And Andre, I know you're going to love this, but you know, they don't have a lot of money with us, or so you know, they're not great clients from that point of view. But they're great clients because they refer a whole lot of people to us, because they love what we do. And then something I think I mentioned this before, what we are playing with that we need to look at is, I think I mentioned before, we've got 2 clients existing where they've been working with us for about 5 years. And where they are now is way ahead of where we had planned for them to be, you know, when we started the process. And so we use the IWP. So what we're doing now is when we have the original meeting, we keep that snapshot of what their situation looks like, and then the next year and the next year. And the idea is that we can say, well, you know what, when, you know, this is what your model looked like all those years ago. And I know there are problems because the IWP updates stuff all the time. But maybe you've got to take some screenshots from that. But I think to be able to show clients where they were and where they are now, because I think sometimes, and look, those clients are generally happy clients, but I really do think that we need to consciously think of reinforcing more to our existing clients how we've added value and where we've added value. Because I mean, I've had this with clients where they're long-standing, and yep, sometimes we've pulled out. I've showed you guys the portfolios we used for over 20 years and how they've outperformed. I've started using that a bit more, not because I want to talk about the money or the returns, but I mean, if that is something they're thinking about, it's like that's one area that we've smashed it by doing really boring stuff. So let's get that out the way completely. So when it comes to returns, we've outperformed. So let's put that away, because you know, when people are questioning, there's generally something going on, and that's where it comes out. It comes out, you know, talking about stuff that they think is important, like investment returns, which are important, but only if it's not happening. Okay, who else can I pick on? Russell, I know you've been on your journey, and are there any ways that you practically use to illustrate to clients how you've added value? Because obviously sometimes we walk a road and it's not always clients have been able to invest a lot of money or whatever. It's simply they've maybe moved from a situation where they've been underwater to now where they're starting to make some progress. So anything practically that you use?
Yeah, I just want to know, do you want to take, I see Yondela had his hand up. So I don't know if you want to answer his question first.
Sorry, I didn't see that, Yondela.
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, Yondela, you're
Okay,
next.
awesome, man.
Okay, great.
So just something that has kind of worked for me, because I've been struggling trying to speak to I guess my clients or people that I'm currently speaking to. And it's something interesting that's actually happening is, so for example, like African families, many of them, especially the ones with boys, they would go to the mountain when they turn 18 or 20. And a lot of them don't do planning for that. And it has become such an eye-opener as I've kind of brought in the cultural aspect of their realities as African men and fathers and wives who have to deal with this eventuality in 18 years' time to actually start saving for, umgidi, or, the rite of passage of becoming a man. And that has actually changed the perception of the type of value that I bring, to some of the clients or the people that I'm speaking to. And I'm actually started to get quite a bit of referrals just by introducing that small aspect of the cultural reality of a young man going into the bush. So I thought that might be insightful to share, and it's pretty cool here. I think, if you guys would use, or just ask if you have any Black clients, Xhosa, especially, it's something that 90% of them don't think about, and they only start thinking about it 2 years before that thing actually does happen. So it's been pretty cool for me.
Thanks, Yondela. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, that's a great point, and it's like people start planning for retirement 2 years before they retire. So, and I think like that is what really cool about that is you've identified something which your clients identify, which is really important, and you can probably use that as a stepping stone to say, okay, look, now we've dealt with that. Now, hang on, what about this? What about this? So I think the beauty is you're able to share the value of proper planning and then take that and say, okay, well, hang on, let's look at education or let's look at retirement or something else. So yeah, thanks, man. Russell.
Yeah, I think onto Yondela's point, I think also what I've learned from experience with clients, and I've gotten also a lot of referrals so that way, is that speaking more, like we do it actually, like all of us probably do it indirectly without realizing it, but it's kind of like speaking more to the client, because I find a lot of my clients, especially your established professionals, right, or your younger individuals, they come to you with kind of already perceived beliefs or assumptions of what they should be doing with their money. Like I tend to find a lot of professionals being pressured, or young people being pressured or kind of told by a lot of relatives, like, oh, at this age you should have XYZ, or you should have an investment property by now. And they're pressured by a lot of thoughts by family members and friends when where we can have that honest conversation with them of like, okay, but is it really what you want, or is it something that really makes you happy? So I find I tend to have a lot of deeper conversations with clients, but then also to Yondela's point, and that's where I think we add the value as a human advisor as well, is we speak more to like, okay, but now in getting to understand you as an individual, because you're not the same as Tom, Dick, and Harry, that's come through this door. what challenges or concerns or thoughts do you have on your mind that affects particularly you, your culture, your family upbringing that's different to everyone else? You know, instead of just painting the same brush. And I find it's an old school thing, but like just connecting with your client on them on an individual level already sets you apart from a lot of their past experience when it comes to financial advice or being sold, initially going straight to like selling, being sold a product. So that's just my 2 cents on what Ndela mentioned as well. I don't know, Dirk, do you want to say something before I jump to the whole demonstrating value to
No,
clients
I think
question?
it's great. I mean, what keeps coming back to me again, like nothing happens by coincidence, guys. I'm not loopy, but coincidence is enough. I listened to that podcast yesterday, and I mean, all of you, what you guys are saying now is that you're talking to the person. You're not talking about money. So whether it's Brian's approach or our approach or what your Ndela addressed or what you're saying is you're starting off the relationship because clients come in expecting us to talk about markets, money, funds, all that nonsense. Look, it's not nonsense. But if you are able to start the conversation by talking about the person, we've seen this. That we only find out about the money much later on. Marguerite says after 6 meetings, they're discussing advice, which people can roll their eyes. I think that's flipping brilliant because, as Paul Armstrong says again, I'm going to have to quote him on this, but we have got no right to speak about you about your money, and until we know who you are. And that's just something that keeps on coming through. And again, it's not the subject we're talking about today, but I think it's really something to take away is that start your relationship talking about the person. You're not gonna meet a potential suitor somewhere and start talking about how many kids you're gonna have or where you're gonna live. You find out about them first. You get them talking first, and then hopefully they have a great date, and then you get another one. So it's all about starting that relationship in the right place. Okay, Russell, shoot.
Yeah, and I think also to the kind of demonstrating your value to clients with like the social media bit and the branding as well. So similar to Brian, I'm not hopping on his shoulders here, but I'm also busy updating like my personal website and stuff and like branding as well currently. And another good tool that I found that you guys could also use, and there's a free like trial version or free version that you can also use is called Video Ask. So it comes off as a second addition to like Typeform. So Typeform's like the nice thing of like when people come to like your brand or anything like that or your website, you can set like template questions of what it would ask them or what they're looking for. And now Video Ask is a good way of like doing video testimonials and also turning it into video format. So I would say look into that. To build onto demonstrating your value. And this comes from, I would say, from Brian. And when, when you had the first meeting about it, I kind of polished mine a little bit more, is having a process that you run through with your clients in that first meeting. And it doesn't have to be a hectic process, but I also get that question of like, clients ask like, what is the experience like working with you? What's different? I think they come into that meeting looking for that. And another advantage that a lot of us have is that clients come into meetings with us with already expectations of what it's going to be like, where they've been pushed products or sold a lot. So in my opinion, even though some of us might see that as a negative, I see that as a positive because that means the bar is set so low for us to deliver a better experience for them. So I find when I have meetings with clients as well, not to get like too touchy-feely or anything, but like to Margaret and some of the points shared by all of you, is that really, get to know the client first. And then at the same time, what I find from experience as well is that to demonstrate the value to client, you ask them like what's stressing them out. I ask them what's stressing and worrying them in the first meeting or why they meet with me. And then based off what Brian also shared with me, I have like accountability check-ins, as we call it, like 3 months in to see how much progress we've made. But also at the same time, that's also where I get on a personal note with them of like, so how do you feel now compared to 3 months ago when you first met me? And then I also take a screenshot of like their first SMAP, which is like where we started, like what their financial situation looked like, and show the progress so that it's not only from showing progress from of like a rand or a financial point of view, but more so of like, how were you feeling when we first met versus, now 3 months in? Do you feel more comfortable? Do you feel more confident, you feel more peace of mind. And that's why I get a lot of great like positive feedback from clients of like, simple things like I feel more in control. I don't feel so overwhelmed anymore. I don't, get stressed when I have to talk about finances to my family. And basically that's how we build more of a personal relationship with a lot of my clients as well. And then I think also one other point I might share that sets you apart, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with social, is that also in your meetings with clients, what I find that a lot of clients have experienced is that they're so used to getting told what to do that they're not part of that planning process or the advice process. And it's so ironic because we are boarding their plan, but they're not involved. They haven't been involved with their own finances or financial plan before when they've gotten advice from other advisors. So for a lot of my clients, it's refreshing when I'm like, okay, so what do you think? What would you like to do with your plan? It's more of like, I'm here just to guide and help polish the edges, but this is your financial plan and your lifestyle plan we bought in. So yeah.
No, that's great, Russell. Thanks, man. Yeah. Frank Puri. So Frank's different to us in some ways in that he runs an accounting auditing practice as well, linked to his financial planning practice. So that's Frank, I don't want to get into trouble with you. I'm sorry. When I diss the accounting profession, I'm never including you in that. But I mean, we all kind of we need our books audited, or we need stuff done for tax purposes, for compliance purposes, and all of that. So, and just for business purposes, so we know where we are. When you're running a business. So it's kind of like a must-have service, a very valuable service, may I add. But Frank, I mean, I'm wondering, how do you have ways? Because I know you're very creative. Do you have ways that you try and demonstrate value, both perhaps on the accounting side that we can maybe learn from and bring across to the financial planning side, or even on the financial planning side, and then maybe also on how they are different? Because I'm pretty sure, because you're in it, you could experience the difference between a happy accounting client and a happy financial client. If you could just share something with us, please.
Okay. Morning, everyone. Thanks, Dirk. If I do speak a little bit Democratus, I've just had a medical procedure, so my head it's a little bit mushtal. But otherwise, very happy to be with you guys this morning and just to share. And thanks for all the input and the feedback so far. Brian, yours is very similar also, as well as what our processes is, and the same as Marguerite. We have also quite a few meetings before we actually get to speak anything on numbers, etc. Yeah, Dirk, I think what a statement. I was just listening to everyone, and we can look for tools like you've mentioned. We talk about practical pointers, and sometimes we can look at a lot of practical points, a lot of practical tools to set us apart. But remember, what sets you apart is you yourself. Each and every person here is different, and each and every person here sets them apart, and they will appeal to a certain client. And always hone on that. Be always true to yourself. Don't think tools is going to set you apart. It's just a means to a certain end. And so I just wanted to make that statement. And that's something that I always speak about to our tribe. If you can if you can listen to how I speak as well, we refer our team as a tribe, and that is what we are. And we make sure that our clients feel part of a tribe, and that they not just a number in the firm not just a number in the firm. They definitely feel part of the family, if I can call it like that. And I always have a even with our tribe themselves, is to say, don't ever be the same as what you were last year. I'm not calling it yesterday, I'm calling it last year. So whatever we've done last year, see how we can tweak it and how we can get better. Don't always accept the status quo. Always try to improve, even if it is just a little bit. And something else that I want to encourage the tribe with, and I'll always do, is I want to know, and I say you need to know. We want to know everything about the client. If the client is having is going through a divorce, or the client is considering buying a new car, or whatever it is, that triggers events for us to engage with the client. And so we always in the team, weekly, we give feedback. What is there anything that you've learned from the client? Is there anything that you heard from the client? What the client going through, and giving it back, and we can discuss it around the table, and we can take it back to the client, and and just engage with the client from that angle. So just on Dirk, you asked a big question there to share. So maybe I'll just share a quick thing, and it's just to add on, if you don't mind, if I share my screen quickly. It's just we like Brian said, he's not very visual. We're very visual. So we've developed quite a bit of documents that we've incorporated in our RWP, which got we don't use any of the Old Mutual branded documents. We've got our own documents branded. And one of the things where we just speak about lifestyle financial planning, and when we engage with clients upfront as well, we speak about, we basically look at 3 roles, and which we call also 3 hats, which we call the life planner hat, the financial planner hat, and the financial advisor hat. Financial advisor hat, we always say, is the least important, but it is also it is important, but it's the least important, and that's when we actually eventually get to products, etc. We always use this logo in our email signature. As a tribe, we focus this on a lot. We want to be your partner in finance, and you can spend your time doing what you love. So that is something that we push quite hard with our clients, and in the tribe as well, by means of, is to say, how can we position ourselves to give the client information that will add value to them? For example, let's look at the accounting. You said I must talk about the accounting side as well. So on the accounting side, numbers is numbers. When we give an income statement, a balance sheet, it doesn't mean anything to the client. They have no idea how to interpret it. They don't know what it looks like. They don't know how to read it. So we find ways then to say, okay, how can we make this in a readable format that the client will understand? Is it through percentages? Is it through graphs? Is it through comparisons? Is it through X, Y, Z? And we set up software for that. We use software that is very easy to use, and it will produce the let's call it management accounts. And from that, we will then engage with the client and have discussions with the client just on numbers and directions, and looking for opportunity to add value at what we're seeing. So it's not feedback, it's actually saying, how do we go forward? Because, hindsight is hindsight. Old numbers is old numbers. You can't do anything about it. So we always want to use that to position and to help and find value out of that, what we're looking at, to see what we can give the client to make better decisions in their businesses, to make better decisions in their finances, etc. Because entrepreneurs and people who's owning businesses, all of that filters through to their personal side as well, in any case, or it is their personal side. It's one person. It's just a certain nut in the engine, or I can call it like that, or a bolt in the engine. That's a very, very vital part of their journey. So we always try to find ways to see how can we add value, not through products, but it's always, like you've mentioned earlier, Dirk, it's about the person, is to see how can we help the person making better decisions going forward. If it is in their business, if it's in their personal circumstances, is it living a better life? We will challenge our clients. We challenge our clients all the time on, are you living the life that you want to live? Or are you putting things on hold? And why? Why are you putting things on hold? To understand that aspect, and to understand the reasoning behind it, why clients don't do what they would like to do. So yeah, I can share a lot what Margarita shared and a lot of Brian has shared. Are very similar. We got a lot of similar approaches in our firm. So I don't want to delve into too much what they've shared already. So yeah, maybe any other questions? Like I said, my brain is a bit mush. But any other questions anyone can ask, go for it. I'll gladly.
No, so Frank, I'm interested because you're unique in that you deal with the clients who they're an accounting client, and then they become a financial. You do lifestyle financial planning.
Yes.
Do you ever? You've dealt with a client for years on the accounting side. Now you start dealing with their lifestyle planning. Do you sometimes see a different person or a different part of that person once they've been through your process?
Sorry, Dirk, just ask that question again.
I'm saying, so you've been dealing with someone's books.
Yeah.
For
And they
years.
become a lifestyle financial planning client.
And then they
yeah.
become a client, a lifestyle financial client, sorry, and they go through your process. Do you then often or sometimes see a different part of that person, or does it sometimes change the relationship?
Okay, that's a very good question. If I'm reflecting on the question as you're asking it, and I think, you know, we are such an integral part of our clients' affairs. You talk business, personal, etc. Is that we get to know them, you know, in depth. Actually, on the accounting side, I always say to maybe let me state the answer as follows. I always tell the tribe, we're not accountants. We're not lifestyle financial planners. We are partners in finance with all our clients. So the world is giving us the title of accountant, of a certified financial planner, as an auditor, as a this, as a this, as a this. That's not who we are. That's just what we do. But it's not who we are. We are there to partner with our clients and to help them build their future. And so maybe that will answer the question, is to say that, you know, yeah, we accountants, but that is just what we do. Our engagement with our clients is not accountant-client engagement, is not at all. And that's completely the same as the lifestyle financial planner relationship. So they experienced already that relationship from engaging on the accounting, tax side, consulting side. When they transition into lifestyle financial planning side, they've already got exposed to that, of who we are, and that we really care, you know, that we are really partners for them, and that it's just that saying, you know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I keep on saying that to our tribe, and it starts with a simple thing of, even with the simplest engagement from the accounting, tax, secretarial, whatever side. The lifestyle financial planning, when clients get there, they already used to our services. We've done a research, even, sorry to carry on, but we've done a survey with our clients, even through Old Mutual, and that is the feedback that we've received. You know, if we look at our ratings, I mean, June can support me on that. She was part of that process, is that they've experienced that. And I think that's the culture that we create in the firm. And that's so important, that for each and every one of us here, is that make sure that our culture is, you know, the culture has to be right. If the client walk into the firm, they have to experience what you want them to experience. It can't be just words, empty words on a statement or on a social media page or this or X or Y. You know, they need to feel it. They need to feel it.
I love that, Frank. It's all about culture. You're quite right. So what you're saying, which is quite obvious, is you can't turn this on or off. You either have the care gene or you don't. You can't buy it anywhere. I suppose you can develop it, but okay. So then the other question, Frank, sorry, last question. When you get accounting clients that have come over from, let's say they come from a corporate or another business, do you then see a difference? Do they ever remark on the different experience they have with your firm?
Yeah, 100%, Dirk. And we've had, actually, if you look at our website, we've also got some testimonials. I think I did share it with you when we launched it on our 20th anniversary. It's on our website. We've got a few clients there already. We try to update our website, few testimonials on a regular basis. We don't try to keep too much. There are too many of them there. You know, that's my daughters coming to me. If I say too much, I say, that's too many. So, but yes, 100%. If they had experiences, they definitely feel the difference, without a doubt. And even in our testimonials, you'll pick that up, is that clients, you know, we ask our clients, and one of the things is we just incorporated after each engagement, if it's an annual review or if it's a financial statements, if the client's not on the LFP side and we do the financial statements, we produce it to the client and it gets handed over, we actually give them a survey, just a 5-question survey of what they experience, and it's all experience based, and then it's that we add value to them? Do they feel that we've added value? Do they feel that we are a partner in their firm, in their business, or with them individually as of individuals? Not just with their business. Do they see us as partners? And we also want to get rating on our team. So very much what our culture is, we bring I think it's 5 questions, 3 to 5 questions that we ask the clients after each annual engagement, to make sure that, listen, we're on track or no, we're not on track. And we want honest feedback of our clients, and we always tell them as well, it's anonymous, but we would like to get that, and we use it through just multiple questions. So yes, we have had clients coming over from accounting, auditing firms, and very much so, they very much say, listen, but you do things very differently. That's what they were looking for. They didn't get it. They just felt like a number that side, etc. And we are very much, the feedback is that they feel like we're interested in them. We're not the one client is quite a big client, and like he said, one of his testimonials as well says that he's not. What makes us different is that in the past he's used to certain firms, and when he transitioned to our firm, it's not about the invoice, it's about the person. And I thought, oh wow, that was quite a big statement, and yeah, I was very, very, very chuffed when I hear that, to get that from a client.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I know you guys will know, some of you know Alan Smith, who runs Capital in London. I know what they do is when a new client comes on, they've got a whole kit. I think it's either the first 6 months or the year, but the client gets, that's a whole lot of glossies, obviously, but I mean, you could do it any way you want, where they basically explain what's going to happen over that first 6 months. And I think this is really important. I mean, something I'm picking up as well is, and I've experienced, is that just because you've had a client for a long time, don't ever take that relationship for granted. I think in the same way you wouldn't take your spouse for granted or your siblings. We know what happens when that happens. Then eventually you don't get a phone call for 6 months and then they're pissed off with you. I've got 3 sisters, so I get this a lot. I forget birthdays and I get these messages on WhatsApp or whatever. So, don't take, our clients are the same. I mean, because whether we like it or not, I think those are the kind of relationships that we do build if you're a lifestyle planner. And we need to respect that and definitely not take it for granted. And I think, as you said before, but keep on reinventing yourself, I think is really, very important. Keep on seeing, where can we improve. And then another thing I just want to mention is, I mean, we've heard Brian and Marguerite, Frank, we've heard from Russell, everyone's different. And for some of the newer or younger planners or people who aren't as personally engaging as they maybe are just because of our personalities, I want to stress that don't think that if you're not able to do what Brian or these other guys do, that this isn't going to work. I think if you have the care gene, you really want to make a difference, you just got to figure out what works for you. And that's why, again, I'll stress, go and listen to that Brendan Fraser podcast, because there are like 3 questions and 3 more questions. Even if you start using one of those, I'm telling you now, it's going to give you a breakthrough. So we've all got to start somewhere, but I mean, we're all going to swim a different stroke. We're all swimming to our own island. So I think just don't get intimidated by some of the people on this group who've done amazing work. All they've done is they've really found out what works for them. So don't think that if I'm not going to do what they do, then I'm not going to crack at you. I think what we've got to do is we've got to find out what works for ourselves, and then identify our strengths and then build on our strengths. Where you have weaknesses, rather find someone else in your team who can deal with that. Okay, guys, we've got 10 minutes left. Anyone else? We keep picking on the same guys. Anyone new? Anyone who wants to ask anything or put anything out there, or anyone who has any ideas that they've thought of trying but they're not quite sure how to implement? Who can I pick on? Simon? If you're not babysitting.
No, I'm not. I'm not. Yeah, it was hugely insightful to listen to everyone. I don't think I can really add too much, but I have spent a lot of time, maybe not recently, looking at, how do we add value? It's a funny question. I don't know if everyone feels the same, but if you haven't kind of revisited this value add conversation, often if you have to justify it, and maybe justify is not the right word, but if you have to tell someone, you can get a bit tongue-tied, because you almost battle to shoot out all the things that you do without coming across that you're trying to sell yourself. But the reality is there's so much value that we add that I think you can't, like anyone in this group, you don't really have a presentation to say how we add value. It all kind of comes up in the meetings. And Frank's message on the group the other day, I think it was you, Frank, who spoke about, someone was saying, how do we sort of reach out in social media? And the difficulty when you're starting out is you don't have clients to sort of speak your word or spread the word. But the reality is that value add feeling happens in those meetings. And I think if you try and work as hard as you can to, like Dirk said, maybe outsource some of the things that steal your time away from where you really add value, is where you sit down with those clients, that's probably going to be your best strategy. Or even if you're just talking to as many people as possible in the beginning. So with us, I spent a lot of time to try and just be able to spend more time literally sitting with people, and that value add, all the sort of points that came up. I'm happy to share. I think it's a PDF document literally that digs into the value add, and you can't necessarily show it to clients. They talk about where the percentage, they try and sort of monetize the value add and work it out as a percentage of what you bring to the table, and then you can kind of offset that against this fee that you charge, however you charge it. But it talked about four different areas of value add. So the beginning one was soft skills. So everyone's mentioned these points. I won't dig into them, but it's like education, good questioning, good listening, empathy, honesty, the behavioral coaching, and being a sounding board, so preventing people from making bad mistakes. And then moving on to building the financial plan. The big thing for me there was, when you're building that plan, you've got a cash flow tool. And for a client, that can get quite complicated. All you really want to pull out of that tool, whichever tool you use, is not to be persuasive using it, but rather to give your client the clarity to have better conversations and make better decisions. That's all that's kind of there, and obviously establishing their goals. And I think quite a big thing that we can help people with, the way we add value, and I know it sounds funny because it's part of the product side, but it's implementation. You have these great conversations, and I think if clients have those conversations elsewhere or with other people, they need to go and kind of simplify, and how do we implement these things? And I think we don't always realize how much value we bring to the table by actually being able to implement a solution that helps them. So all those little bits and pieces. And then lastly, that fourth thing was your ongoing service. So I think me in particular, I try to spend time, which is not a strength. Like Dirk said, I need to outsource the things you're not good at, but communicating your value. So having a strategy where you're sending constant educational stuff, and just being consistent and going back to seeing that person again. I think that's where all that value sort of repeats itself over and over again. But we can get lost in doing all the work, and we want to see people, and then you've got so much other stuff to do that that slowly can fall away at times. But if we just revisit spending the time with people, indirectly that value comes through. Right?
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Yeah, I think the talking about the marketing side, which you mentioned now, and Frank's mentioned, and Tim spoke about. I mean, we've learned that it's just like you do stuff and you hear nothing, and you see nothing, and I think it's really important. It's something you got to keep on just doing and doing. I've been doing it in St. Francis for over a year now, and I'll play golf. Some guy I hardly know will walk up to me and say, "I read your stuff." And oh, look, okay, what did you read? You know, it's like it's 350 words. That's not a lot. And they'll just, because we never talk about, if we talk about the markets, it's how we can't do anything about the markets. It's about focus elsewhere. But it's taken years. I mean, it took about 9 months before someone said something to me, and I publish every week, and then another publishment I publish every month, and the other magazine every 3 months. So if you keep on getting your message out there, I think it does work. Sometimes we think we're putting stuff out there and it's not having an effect, but I think that it will. So you've got to get very clear on what you see as your value. And then eventually what it also, I think it does, it just speaks to your existing clients and tells them that you keep on delivering the same message. So even if you believe it, you're basically just dishing out more Kool-Aid all the time, which sounds like a Russian brainwashing experiment, but it does work. I think what this session's really brought home to me, and if we go back to where we started looking at what ChatGPT put out on this, is that this is a massive opportunity. It really, really is. It's very, very clear that this massive industry, apart from Glossy showing investment returns, very really battles to show the value that it adds to people's lives. And I think this is something that we've got to each explore in our own way and keep looking at how we can do this. Because I mean, I mean, when I was in London a few months ago with Brett Davidson, I'll see if I can share it, but one of the talks he spoke about was that your referrals come from your admin office. And the gist of it is that, and what you mentioned, Simon, about helping people with admin, is by looking after that stuff well. Like, I mean, you know, we got Zoe and Lily, but Zoe's like the queen of admin. Like, she's unbelievable, the best in the world. And the beauty behind that is that we know we've got such a reliable service that like it can't be underestimated how important that is. And when clients get that great service, you know, that's again when they refer people to you, and they see you as having a proper business. And I know that's more difficult where you're running a business on your own or you've got a very small team. But I think that's you've got to try and progress to that where you do have someone that does that kind of work for you. And I mean, I know that there are people that sell services, as call them paraplanning services or admin services. But I think that's really important. The other thing that is I've thought about recently, because it was on the WhatsApp group, and this is a bit of a punt for Old Mutual, but there's no other way of doing it. If you're not working with a cash flow model, I don't know how you're doing this. And I am absolutely gobsmacked that this thing's been around. Well, we've had it for over 20 years in the old form, from IPAC through to Access, now to Wealth. I cannot understand that no other big institution has done something similar. I know they're very, very vanilla forms of it, but it's just absolutely crazy. But if you're not using a cash flow planning model, I would say to you that you really, really need to look at the IWP. You waste your time looking at anything else. It really is the most powerful tool, and it's in a place where no one's ever going to catch it up. So, guys, if you're not using that, I promise you that tool on its own will turn your life around. So yeah. Okay. Anything else? Anyone have any suggestions on what we should chat about in our next session? Andre Boer, you are one of the longest serving members on this group, and by a long way, the quietest serving member on this group. Is there anything that would help you that we could maybe discuss, even if we don't discuss the whole session, but even if we just look at part of it, anything that would help you?
How's it, Dirk? Yeah, I mean, very interesting what we're talking about now. And I'm working hard at getting good on the IWP and taking the different bits and pieces of information every week from the different aspects. But I can't say there's one particular thing. I guess what you're talking about today is the thing. You know what I mean? How do you show that value? And it's not maybe as a topic on its own only. It comes from all the various things, and hopefully I'm getting there. But yeah, nothing specific at this stage.
Okay, great. Thanks, man. Guys,
Can
listen,
I-
thanks so much. Oh, sorry.
Can I hop
sorry.
in there, Dirk?
Yep, Shannon.
You know, I think this has been a fantastic session, and I would love to continue having discussions along this line, because I think it just really expands on what we are all about as financial planners. I just want to add a little bit in terms of me, where I am in this. You know, I've been in the industry now for 23 years. So I think I do know a thing or two, the fact that I've survived along this long. But at the same time, I'm absolutely inspired and am learning so much from what is being shared on a session like this. I'm very much the old school analytical. My conversations have always started off being about the money, and it ends up circling back to being about the client. And I'm battling to change my way of thinking to get the discussion starting off being about the client and letting it develop into being about the money. So, you know, it's something I would love to have to hear more about it, how the various people do.
Okay, Shannon, so are you saying more about people's processes and how they start with a new client?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with this focus being towards the lifestyle financial planning element. Forget about the financial planning, forget about the financial advice. Let's focus on the lifestyle financial planner.
Okay. Can I pick on Frank Fourie to show us your process next time? And I'm going to ask Russell as well, just because Russell said he has got a process. And I think they would probably be similar, but they would probably be quite different. So if I can ask you to just to share in our next session, and then we can take the conversation further from there. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Have a great week, and yeah, we'll see you on the WhatsApp group.
I see Haley's got her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Haley. Sorry, Haley.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for a valuable session today. Just something that I thought maybe we could note as a point for next time is just on time and how you guys find ways to free up time to obviously spend more with the client from a more operational point of view in terms of different platforms that you use and how you integrate them with one another in terms of process management, analytics in terms of like assets under management and how you're tracking and how much you have with certain clients where. I don't know what platforms people use and how you update it monthly or quarterly, but it's just something to, yeah, I'm curious about.
Okay, so are you talking about client reporting?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we can have, that's great. So we're going to go through Frank and Russell next time, and then we're going to have a share on how we report and you're talking about the bit like where the money lies with who?
Yes.
Gray,
yeah, how you
Coro,
bring
Wealth,
it all together.
whatever.
Yeah. Whether
Okay,
it's in
cool.
like a Google Sheet spreadsheet, or if you have integrations between different platforms that pull it together nicely, or if it's quite a manual process.
Okay, great. Thanks, Haley.
Currently
Thanks for
we
that.
spend quite a bit of time doing that, and I think maybe especially in a one-man team, not that I'm part of that, but it might be helpful to just discuss how to make that more efficient, to be able to spend more time with the client face to face.
Okay, great. We'll do that.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Keep warm. Cheers.
Thanks. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Fantastic
Bye.
session.